Welcome. It is winter 2024 and it is cold as fuck. Hence the reason I'm growing out my beard here so that I can protect myself from the elements the few times I decide to venture outside, since the protection on the top of my head has decided to leave me. But enough about that. Let's talk about anime. So, spoiler warning for a bunch of random shows this season and past seasons, but check the description if you want to see what shows I'll be talking about, and then you can skip over the ones you want to skip over, or skip two of the ones you want to see, I guess. And in my typical review form, we're starting off with the shows that I binge watched from past seasons. So let's go. Fully Cooley, Shoegaze. Is that how you're supposed to say it? Shoegaze? I don't know. Just don't take my word for it, I guess. So let me preface all this by saying that the last Fooly Cooly that I watched was grunge. So my expectations coming into this were pretty much on the floor. And after watching, I gotta say, I actually think it wasn't that bad. And I'm a little surprised. And let me admit my bias here. Coming from grunge, I don't know, my scale for Fooly Cooly is just completely fucked. So it could be that I am just seeing a slightly better show and it looks astronomically better than the last one. But the story overall is fine. It's only 3 episodes long. They're not going to be able to flesh out a whole lot. And I don't know why they keep doing this with Fooly Cooly. They only make it like 3 episodes. I know the original is only 6, I think, but why shorten it more? I mean, maybe I would have liked it more if they expanded it out. Maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know, but there's no reason to make it that short. Anyway, this is a sequel to Fooly Cooly Alternative, which I know I've seen at some point, but it's been so long I barely remember it. And honestly, probably not going to go back and rewatch it because there's little tidbits that kind of help you remember what happened in that story. So there's really no reason to go back and watch it just to watch this. So for being only 3 episodes, the story's fine, but it's not great. Some positives, I would say. They took the style and the feel back to what was the older version of Fooly Cooly, back before grunge, which is a much better choice. And of course, they brought back the pillows. They got to do that. I swear, if someone told me that they were making more Fooly Cooly just so more people could hear the pillows, I'd 100% believe it. I don't think that this is as good as the original. I'm definitely not putting it up on that pedestal. And it could just be the nostalgia talking. But I do think this show got me closer to the feeling that I had whenever I first watched Fooly Cooly, which is far more than what past seasons of Fooly Cooly have done. So I got to give it props for that. And overall, I would say this is a decent show. Insomniacs After School. So I was in the mood for some romance, and this is the show that I decided to go with. When I was looking into it, it gave off the same vibes as Call of the Night, except for this doesn't have Creepy Nuts doing the music, which is a negative for Insomniacs. But it also doesn't have the supernatural aspects to it, which I think is actually a positive for this show. And I'm gonna avoid spoilers and everything, but the show is basically just about two high schoolers that have a lot of stress and can't sleep at night. So it's just them trying to figure out what to do in their day to day lives to get over this problem. Now, I'm no expert in the romance genre or romance in general. What's the opposite of being romantic? I'm the opposite of being romantic, whatever that word is. So I may not have the best explanations or know all the definitions or the best way to describe all of this, but I'll do my best. But I do really like this show, and I think a big reason for that is that their relationship feels natural. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I look for in any kind of romance show is at any point that if their relationship feels forced, then I am pretty much out. Call it my commitment issues flaring up or something. And it makes sense that they have this shared problem, and the more time that they spend together trying to figure it out, and the more they open up to each other, then the closer they get. I mean, that's just kind of how relationships work. But I guess I should also mention my bias on this. I wouldn't say that I have insomnia. but my natural sleep cycle kind of lines it up more with being awake at night and sleeping during the morning. And back in high school, that caused me a lot of problems. I ended up just sleeping a whole lot during class. And in the show, there's a scene where the teacher is trying to give advice and everything, trying to give different methods on how to fall asleep at night. And it's the same, I don't remember exactly what everything he said, but it's the same things that I heard in high school from people who were genuinely trying to help, but just kind of didn't understand. I guess is kind of the best way that I can put it. And I guess this is a bit spoilery, but seeing the main character yell at the teacher after giving this advice was kind of made me happy, honestly. So I don't know if this show is really good or if I just really like it because I connect with moments like that. So trying to put my bias down as much as I can. I do think this is a good show if you're and looking out for something romantic. Comical Psychosomatic Medicine. So I started watching this because I thought it would be a fun video to make on its own. I mean, it's psychology and anime, and that's a fun topic, right? But there's just not enough here for me to actually talk about, so I'm just going to talk about it for this review, I guess. Now, the show itself is 20 episodes long, but they're like 5-minute episodes. And it's even less than that because they have an intro and an outro. So, in less than 5 minutes, they're trying to squish in a whole bunch of information, and it really feels like they're squishing it in. The show does talk about mental illness, but the focus is on comedy. The psychology takes a backseat to the comedy here, and honestly, neither of them are done well, in my opinion. Like, the jokes are fine, they're funny sometimes, but overall, they're not really great, at least for me. And then the psychology was lacking because they've spent so much time on the comedy. So overall, for me, both sides, none of it really hit all that hard for me. So, in my opinion, this is one that you can just skip. Solo leveling. This show was mid. Now, let me explain myself here. There was a lot of hype for this show before it ever came out, and the action scenes are great. Honestly, they're the best part of the show. And the way the story's kind of set up, it seems to be a power fantasy where they take someone who's a nobody and make them into a god tier adventurer. And in addition to that, they're also trying to build up the story and basically slow roll that part so there's more world building going on. And to me, these two goals kind of contradict each other and kind of fight with each other. Because on one hand, we have the main character who started from the bottom of the totem pole and then is being pushed up to the top. I mean, the entire premise of the show is that he is solo leveling and he is getting stronger and getting to the point where he can just handle everything on his own. And there's been so many Deus Ex Machina moments that save him from pretty much certain death, that it's very apparent that he is going to get stronger and he's going to become the greatest. And if that's where the show was, if that's was the entire point, I think I would actually have less of a problem. But to me, the issue kind of comes from the side characters and side stories and all of that, because by the very nature of the show, I don't really care as much about the side characters. I mean, like normally side characters come up in shows, I'm kind of neutral to them. But when the entire premise is that the main character is solo leveling, there's kind of a built-in assumption that the side characters aren't really going to mean as much. And the way that the fights and stuff have been taking place with the main character kind of reinforces that. So we're taking so much time to focus on the side characters. It doesn't feel that important to me. If anything, it feels like it's just slowing down the pace of the show. And that's why I say that these two different goals are clashing with each other. And it could be that in future seasons or whatever, that this problem is fixed. Like, I'm not reading the manhwa, and I'm just have to go on the show itself. So maybe I'll change my mind whenever the next season comes out and I learn more. But for me, this season just didn't live up to the hype. Mashle Season 2 and Classroom of the Elite Season 3. Both of these shows are fine. I think if you like the shows beforehand, you'll end up liking this season as well. Now, I do think that both of these shows are a little worse this season than they were previously. But I don't know if that is because that I am just getting a little bored with them or if this season is just a little worse than before. I don't think it's that much that it needs to be like talked about or pointed out or whatever. I guess I am pointing it out now, but I don't think I need to really go into that much depth about it. If you like the shows before, I think these are worth watching. Just set your expectations a little lower, I guess. The Apothecary Diaries. So this was probably my favorite show for the season, and I really wasn't even going to watch it. It wasn't on my radar at all until I saw how popular it was and how excited everyone else was to see it. And I decided to check it out. I think they were like 20 episodes in by that point, and I ended up binge watching the entire thing in like one day. I'm a sucker for good characters and a good story, and I think both of these are done well in this show. I mean, the main character, Mao Mao, is interesting to watch as she tries to navigate the world of elites as she solves mysteries and avoids political bullshit. And this is ancient China. I think this is where this is. I don't know. I don't know if that is where this is or if the politics are even accurate in the story. And I'm probably not going to look it up. But one thing I think the story itself does well with the political side of it is that it focuses more on the the drug dealer rather than the politicians. Because doing this helps to make it to where you can weave in and out the politics. They can get more into political drama and all that fun stuff on one side, but then go completely away from it for a few episodes without the story ever feeling completely disconnected because the focus really isn't on the politicians. And while I do like Mao Mao, she is actually my biggest problem with the show. Because at the beginning, she's solving mysteries and stuff that kind of have to do with healthcare and drugs and all that fun stuff. Man, it starts to get to the point where she is just solving whatever mystery comes up, and she just does whatever she wants with those. And she's almost a little too good at everything, which I think is a negative thing. What's the phrase? I think Mary Sue is what it's called, where you just have a character who's just too perfect. And I'm not saying that she is at that point. She's not so bad that it's like ruining the story for me, but it gets to the point where it's bad enough that I feel the need to point it out. And overall, I actually don't think there's anything that's super amazing or anything that's going to blow you away about this show. But I do think that everything that it does well. And I think that's kind of important for a lot of shows. And it's something that I'm noticing with a lot of past shows is that the ones that excel or the ones that are good at pretty much everything that they try to do tend to be more popular than the ones that maybe just have one thing that's really good and everything else about the show sucks. But maybe that's just my personal experience of what I've noticed and everything. But I think that's what happened with this show. They just did everything well and everyone liked it. So that is it for the winter 2024 season. Let me know if I missed a show that I should have watched. Or if you hated my opinion, let me know how much you hated it. Do not get enough hate messages, apparently. I'm kidding. Anyway, that's it. See ya.